Hello friends, welcome to DelPro Farm Manager tutorial. Uh, Once we install DelPro software, before introducing any animal in the software, we need to set up certain settings in the software to get the maximum benefit and to utilize the features properly. We need to set up certain things in the software. So in this video, we are going to discuss those options and settings and on your screen, you see that when we install DelPro and we open the software for the first time, we see a blank dashboard or monitor board because no animal is registered so far in the software. And this is the right time we need to set up the options. So, what are those options? Uh, in the farm, we keep the animals in different groups or different pens. It can be a group of milking cows. It can be a group of dry cows. It can be a group of heifers or group of calves. There can be different types of groups. So the way you have placed the animal in different pens in the farm, same way we need to create the groups in DelPro software. And when we register the animal for the first time in DelPro, we tell software that animal belongs to which group. And then we need to define the users in software. Uh, there are different people with different responsibilities in the farm who work with software. So there can be people who will use software only to see the data or only to enter the data. They just need the reports and data. They don't directly interact with animals. So we call them as user. And then there will be people who will treat the animals. They will do the vaccinations and treatments. So those are registered as vet in the software. There will be people who will be acting as breeder or inseminator in the farm. They are registered as breeder in software. And of course, the owner of the farm is registered as farm owner. So this is very crucial that we define the users in the beginning of the software, and each user can set his password to maintain the you can say to ensure that only authorized person has access to the software. There are some important settings related to the farm name and address. There are some general settings. For example, after how many minutes the dashboard or monitor board should refresh the data. In DelPro 5.5 and above versions, we have the option of auto refresh of monitor board. So we can define after how many minutes it should refresh the data. There are certain settings related to animals. There are certain settings related to reproduction settings. For example, uh, for how many days we will keep the cow dry, for how many days uh, we can say that for what is the voluntary waiting period, etc. So those settings come under reproduction settings. There are certain milking settings. For example, how many times we will use the parlor, and if we have a body conditions for camera, then there are settings for BCS camera as well. So we need to define some breeds as well. Depending on your city, on your country, you might have uh, local breeds which might not be defined by default in the software. I give you the example of India. In India, Gir breed is very famous, but by default it is not defined in the software. DelPro gives a very quick option to introduce those breed names easily in the software. And of course, there are some purge settings, which means what kind of data should be kept for how many days in the system. I give you a very easy example for purge settings. I need the milking data of cow throughout the life she is in my farm. But I don't need the data that for how many minutes she was milked 2 years back, or I don't need the data on which platform she was standing 2 years back. So we can set up those options that what kind of data should be kept for how many days to ensure that our database size is under limit. So these are the commonly used, or you can say these are the common settings we need to set prior to introduce any animal in DelPro software. And once these settings are done, then we are good to go, and we can start introducing animals. And you will see as soon as we make these settings, and when we introduce an animal in the system, the registration form asks a lot of things from these settings. Uh, Before I end this video, I just want to update the importance of these settings, because uh, it is always important that we enter the correct information in software. If we take any random assumption while introducing the animal in DelPro, and later on if we try to correct it, it creates an unnecessary event in the system. So because it is registered in the history of animal, which is not required at all. If we enter the animal in DelPro with correct settings, with correct options, then we can avoid that unnecessary data entry. This is the first benefit. Then, if we don't make the correct settings, let us take example of reproduction settings. Let us say the breed on my farm, the gestation period is 275 days. But by default, DelPro gives the gestation period of 283 days. So if I don't change it to 275, it will tell me that the dry off period for the cow is 60 days before calving. So for me, I will not be able to keep the cow dry exactly for 60 days, because system is calculating the dry off period from 283 days, not from 275 days. So this was just one of the example to make you aware the importance of these settings. I will create individual video for individual settings to make sure the video length is in control. And very soon I will upload all of these videos. And please let me know if I miss anything, or if you have any feedback for me, please let me know. And once again, I thank you very much for your time, and let us stay connected. Thanks once again.